It's just to say that sometimes you think you're so right, you think you've got the
Yeah.
information correct, and then you go out in sort of maybe too aggressive of a way to tell
Yeah.
somebody how they were wrong.
Being wrong is part of the job, but acknowledging that
Yeah,
you're wrong, right? Because that's signaling growth and development.
you'll learn a lot and have a much easier time getting your, your world built.
Yeah. There's a little bit of humility in there. You're not apologizing, but you are expressing the wins that you've had and engaging in a conversation.
It's almost like a mantra
Yeah,
that you have to have somebody telling you in your ear
you do.
to remind you.
In this coaching session, I sit down with Jackie Cutrone, Chief Marketing Officer at a leading B2B research company. 5 years ago, Jackie joined as their first marketing hire and immediately recognized they needed to build both brand and marketing from scratch. She's since created a dynamic team that handles everything from brand identity to go-to-market strategies, growing from zero to a mix of employees and freelancers. Her research with Adweek quantified how great CMOs achieve 2x revenue growth through collaboration, something she practices daily. Yet Jackie faces challenges familiar to many startup leaders, maintaining role clarity as teams rapidly evolve, acting quickly on organizational changes, and ensuring her team's value is recognized across the company. Today, we'll explore how Jackie can strengthen her ability to set the right mood for her team, navigate constant organizational change, and develop the internal narrative that will elevate both her leadership and her team's impact. Join us for this conversation about evolving from builder to leader while maintaining the relationships and standards that drive success. Hi, I'm Jenny Clark, a conscious leadership expert who spent 2 decades in executive recruiting and talent management, having worked with giants like Google and Spencer Stuart. I discovered that the secret to transformative leadership lies in the 5 dimensions of conscious leadership, and I'm here to help you unlock your full potential. Join me on this channel as we embark on an honest and vulnerable journey together to become the kind of leader that genuinely inspires transformation in your organization. Jackie, welcome.
Thank you.
Great to meet you.
You as well.
From what I understand, you're a chief marketing officer at a research company in New York, and you lead a team. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the team that you're leading and what challenges, issues, concerns you have about them and maybe yourself?
Sure. The company I work for, I've been there almost 5 years, and I was the first marketing hire. And one of the first things I said is, you don't need a head of marketing, need a head of brand and marketing.
Hmm.
So, because you need a brand first and foremost, if it's not something you've considered. And my background is on the communications, advertising, marketing. So the team that I built and had a chance to build from scratch is sort of oriented in 2 pieces. The sort of brand team, where we do a lot of the identity management, story creation, storytelling, and then also the sort of go-to-market side, where we take those stories and we plug them into the various channels that we need to communicate with our customer, right? Because they have problems and we have value add content to share with them. So in that process of the team building and management, there's been growing pains, but in a good way, right? Because it's just simply something we haven't done yet. It's not a centuries old organization with a lot of built out processes. We're a startup and we're doing a lot of these things for the first time. So the team I had 3 years ago is not the same team I even have or need
Yeah.
today. So the evolution of talent, the evolution of role, and then continuing to make sure that everyone understands what their job is so key to the continued success of the department.
Yeah. I'm curious about how some of the transitions that you've had to make by simply by virtue of the growth, frankly, because it seems like your peers, the other leaders in the organization, are on board with the organizational structure as you outlined it. But now, how is that actually playing out? You were talking specifically about roles, but I'm also curious about marketing has to interface with the other functions of the organization.
Completely.
So how, as they have grown and changed, how have you been able to pivot, or what obstacles have you run into with
Yes.
that kind of growth?
Yes. So I work at a research company, so I have a lot of research in my brain. And one of the studies that we have done, actually with one of our partners at Adweek, was around CMO collaboration.
Mm.
And we quantified the effect that good collaboration from the CMO function can have into different business units across the organization.
Wow.
And what we found is, and we're able to separate good CMOs and great CMOs.
Mm-hmm.
And great CMOs are ones that are hitting their external KPIs. So then we isolated that group and looked at what they were doing internally.
Mm-hmm.
And the great CMOs are hitting 2x revenue growth, 9x customer satisfaction, and 6x innovation.
Wow.
It was like huge above the rest of the group.
Yeah.
And the things that they're doing is building real relationships with the other functions. So as the team evolves, as the team grows, as needs change, it's the same. Know your audience,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's an external audience and it's a customer, or it's an internal audience and it's a new leader, it's a new team, it's a reorged commercial, go to market. You really have to make sure that you have those relationships with the people,
Yeah.
because that's going to make all of the rest of it actually work.
So part of your job with your specific team is, one, finding the right people who have that orientation, or dare I say mindset, because
Yep.
not all companies are built that way. So how are you, what kind of hiring decisions are you making, and role alignments are you creating?
Well, one of the things that I look for across everyone on my team is, I say you should want to live in a world of your own creation.
Hmm.
And if you're excited about not having anyone tell you exactly how to do it, and you've always known that you could do it and some reason was always holding you back, this is the place for you, right? It's like, if we're for you, we're for you, but we're not for everybody.
Right.
So if you have somebody that's self-motivated, self-driven, has a clear vision, then they're going to be motivated to make that work. So that's one thing that I look for. And then the other thing I tell my team is, assume good intentions.
Yeah.
And, maybe it didn't work out the way you wanted, but we don't need to be, you're wrong, da da da, because marketing is always like, "Well, you're telling me what to do," right? Is how other departments can perceive it.
Yeah.
So to get through those communication barriers, you need to add, 30% of the time I'm wrong. Right?
Huh.
Where I not even as like it's just to say that sometimes you think you're so right, you think you've got the
Yeah.
information correct, and then you go out in sort of maybe too aggressive of a way to tell somebody how they were wrong, when in fact you didn't understand the full story. So I think that's a really important piece to successfully collaborating with the other functions,
Yeah.
is let's hear everybody out. Be driven, have a clear mind, be excited, get stuff done, but at the same time, listen, because you'll learn a lot and have a much easier time getting your world built.
Yeah. So it sounds like for you, being wrong is part of the job, but acknowledging that
Yeah.
you're wrong, right? Because that's signaling growth and development. Can you, did it take you a while to get comfortable with that?
Yes, because I'm a driven person. I like the idea of achievement and success. And when you make a mistake or rub somebody the wrong way, that goes against everything you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just about, how fast can you pick yourself back up from that or not let it define you, I think is a really important thing to always keep in mind, because you can psych yourself out of all the things you know to be true about yourself if you let that kind of like settle too
Yep.
much.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. So part of collaboration, it suggests to me that if you need your team to be collaborating outside of your function.
Hmm.
But I think we also talked about, when we met up earlier, the need for you to create a mood among your team. And how have the challenges associated with that shown themselves? How
Yeah.
did you determine that that was a need for your team?
Yeah. And this is one of the things I did not expect. Or was maybe, yeah, just the least expected about like some of the hurdles I've had as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And one that has built a team in an organization that didn't necessarily have a rule book, right, as a
Right.
startup. And what I've as a brand leader know is like, brand done well is brand experience is a reflection of culture
Mm.
internally.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you do to build culture internally? That starts from leadership at the top. And if leadership sets the right mood at the top and they do it right,
Yes.
then it's absorbed and like kind of like stickiness to all of the employees.
Yeah.
And now everyone's thinking about the brand. They are the brand, especially in B2B,
Yep.
right? You're all doing it consistently the right way.
Yeah.
And then now, if the mood sours or maybe is stressed or the market dynamics are, maybe not all rosy all the time, and that affects leadership, that trickles down to culture.
Absolutely.
That affects your brand experience.
Right.
You can't have stressed people on the phone talking to clients
Right.
about why their project's late or whatever the case is.
Mhm.
So it's really important to make sure that whatever you're feeling as a leader is not an ongoing mood that you are disseminating to your team, right? If I show up with like, okay, guys, like that's not great, right? But versus like, we had a little bit of a bump yesterday, but like we're doing a million other things right.
Yeah.
So let's try that. And I will be the first to admit I'm not perfect. Me saying that now is much harder in practice, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's at least part of the like journey toward doing it more consistently.
And have you, because in my experience, you're part of a bigger organization, right? You might be able to set the mood for your team,
Yeah.
but to the extent there might be a different mood on other teams or at a higher level, what are you and your team members able to do to at least maintain your sense of
Yeah.
culture, so to speak, microculture?
Yeah, I think that it goes back to the personal relationships. Is you have to like the people that you work with, especially post COVID, as everyone could click out of a meeting, click into a meeting, and you could have 10 meetings. It's exhausting, right?
Yeah.
But what you're missing is the walk to the meeting, the
Right.
walk from the meeting, the idle chit chat,
Yes.
somebody going to lunch. Like that's work. It doesn't seem like work. That's you not working in a lot of ways. It's the drink after work. It's the coffee in the morning. That's that like social fabric
That's the
that
relationship.
makes it all work.
Yeah.
You could execute your job, I suppose, but you'll be so much more better off for you as a person and then your company because you like the people that you work with and you have some push and pull and you want to do a good job. You don't want to let them down. The best work I ever did is because I didn't want to let my manager like down in a way, or like I didn't want them to see anything less than like perfection from me every day. So I was prepared. I was working weekend. Like it was crazy, but it was that social fabric that was the like extra boost of engagement.
But you were doing that, and
yes, correct.
but and hopefully modeling that to members of your team. But not everybody was on board with that model, whether it was remote or in person. How do you deal with some of those individuals who aren't necessarily interested in in forming that kind of a relationship?
Yeah. There was a time that I had my manager changed. And I had known the person for years. We just didn't like have that reporting structure. And then when we did, I was like, wait a minute. Like it was like a little bit of friction. And I was like, but we know each other and we never had problems before. So what's going on? And we actually took a pause and had like a communication and feedback only meeting and it was
Just between the two of you?
yeah, and it was just like, how do you like to be communicated with? How do you like to give feedback?
Yeah.
How do you like to receive feedback, right? Like what is great to you? What can I do? And I was like, give me a Slack update. It was little simple easy things to change and then the awareness of how somebody communicates and thinks can help smooth over maybe that like perception of I'm not on board or I disagree. So that cascades down to any two people working together of you need to understand your audience, you need to understand how they communicate. And you as a marketer, I'd like to say have the upper hand.
Sure.
In a way, because you should understand communication best, I hope.
Should. Yeah.
And there you are able to tailor your style to others to the betterment of whenever it is you're trying to get done.
Yeah.
So I revert back to communication styles
Makes
at the
sense.
core.
Makes sense.
So what about your team? It's grown from what to what in these last 5 years?
That's a tough question
Okay.
because we very much ebb and flow with the market.
I see.
And then there also necessitates like what's the team, because we have freelancers that are very much a part of our team, right? They're in Slack, they've got emails, and we rely on them as much as any full-time employee. So it ebbs and flows depending
But
on.
how has that, because that sounds like it's going to be a steady state for some time. You're still in the startup phase. You're not whatever huge, marketing or research company. So how are you going to, and how do you sort of manage the relationships when they're so varied? When some are employees, others are contractors. How are you managing so that you're getting the optimal level of collaboration and productivity?
Yeah, that's an ongoing one, right?
Yeah.
It's a couple things. One would be, do you know your role, right? Am I clear on roles and responsibilities,
Yeah.
which I sometimes call governance.
Mm.
Do we know when to hand off the thing to the next person? Because there's some people like to do it all and they can, but it's not always in their best interest. They need to hand it off to somebody else at this. So putting clear lines in place helps everybody focus on the thing they need to be doing the most.
Got it.
In terms of like, who do we go to for what? And
Yeah.
that extends to our sales partners. It extends to the like client team, different individuals. And it's just having that like mapped out can sometimes really help people. And then obviously career and development.
And where do you still feel like you need help, support? And this isn't, I mean, I think one of the things is leaders often feel like they want to present that they have all the answers.
Yeah.
So being vulnerable,
Yeah.
where would you like to see yourself get a little stronger?
I would love, so I know these things.
Yeah.
I would like to be better at them. So the idea of, I mean, exactly what I was just saying, clear lines, because it's an imperfect world
Yeah.
where somebody leaves, somebody joins, right? And there's these like I call them like Band-Aid moments
Yeah.
where you're Band-Aiding something and you're temporarily asking someone to do a different thing, and then somebody joins. All right, realign, right? You hired a new role that you didn't have before. Okay, redivide. So it's this like, it's like cells, right? You like come together, you redivide, you come together, you go over here. This other team reorged, it affects. So it's always changing. So that's something that I can probably continue to get better at for a lifetime. But just, I guess, suppose acting faster with more clarity to set everybody in motion in a way. And then the other thing that is often I neglected or doesn't perhaps get enough airtime is like internal comms or campaigning in a way for your initiatives, for your team,
Yeah.
to make sure that everyone knows the value that your team is adding, but also in order to get that like brand experience I was talking about earlier, that adoption.
Yeah.
And I'm classic, like all my work will speak for itself, right? Or I'll keep my head down and like just keep hitting the whatever I need to be doing. But there's a lot of time that's well spent on just telling others about the things you are doing or you need them to do as a result of this. I mean, rolling out and launching a brand is a key one because you need everybody on board and talking about it in the same way. But that other sort of like internal comms piece
Yeah.
is something people.
Well, I have an idea for that. That's something that I talk a lot about.
Yeah.
And it's a narrative. And you are a master storyteller for the products and services that you are putting out to the world. But the narrative that I'm referring to is more, there's sort of a career narrative, there's an internal leadership brand, so to speak, narrative where you are actually offering people in the right context. What are the things that you want certain people to know? You feel as though you're a very savvy, very intuitive, you watch people carefully, you're making these observations. So who are those key individuals that you want to get to? how do they, as you were just saying about yourself, how do they like to communicate, right? Very often it's a one-on-one, to the extent that you can get somebody in the same physical space and to be able to share with them. And sometimes I think for women especially, we think we're being boastful when in fact it's, I don't know if you ever heard about this one project that I was working on. I have to tell you, I'm really proud of it. You know, where there's a little bit of humility in there. You're not apologizing, but you are expressing the wins that you've had and engaging in a conversation. It's not a monologue, certainly. It's a dialogue. And, you know, you do have an ulterior motive, which is to let them know some of the stuff that you've been working on.
Yes, I think that's good advice
Yeah.
that you almost need a sticky note on your computer, right? It's almost like a mantra
Yeah.
that you have to have somebody telling you in your ear
You do.
to remind you to, yeah.
Put in that time with those key individuals, even in a small organization, because everybody's probably got their head down in their own little silo.
Yeah, you're all super busy, and
Yeah.
I think when you work from home, if you have kids, like your life is you're efficient with your time, and that feels extra, right? It
That's right.
feels like the thing that's gonna get cut,
Yeah.
but it's really hard to make the space for it. So I think people like you are a good example of why we need to be reminded constantly of this advice.
So one of the things you mentioned was not acting quickly enough with certain things. Talk more about that and what some of the hesitancy might be in not acting faster, because you seem like you're very agile.
Yeah, I think knowing you need to do it and doing it are two different things.
True.
And it's about your relative list of priorities. And it's sometimes hard to decide between all of those things,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah. I'm guessing for me, and I'm guessing it's probably true for you to some degree, it's a constant reprioritization,
Yeah.
right? Every day, every night before you go to bed, you have your list of what the priorities the next day are going to be, and you get there and they're adjusted. So I think it requires you being disciplined enough to say, I am going to put my priority first, because your priority is that of the organization, or at least your team. So it's not as though you're shortcutting them. You're actually kind of creating more space for them to do. It's some of the other stuff that I've talked about on videos, creating more space for them to be that much more productive. If you can prioritize acting on creating and affecting certain change inside of the organization. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's like an intentionality of how do you spend your time, and this, or on the other side of like ruthless prioritization. Does it have to get done now?
That's right.
And
That's right.
one of the best pieces of advice that I have heard that has stuck with me is people prioritize their day based on their calendar, not their inbox.
Yes.
So if you're not, sometimes your calendar is booked, so you think that's the most important things
That's
I need
right.
to do today.
Yeah.
It's back to your point of like, do those things need to be done today?
Do they really?
Yeah, maybe not.
Right. That's right. These were appointments that were set even a month ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, listen, this has been great. I think you are a really accomplished and impressive leader. Everybody needs tweaks and little, advice from time to time. So I'm glad that you joined us today just to explore and share, and I think offer some advice to other leaders who might be confronted with the same issues that you are. So congrats and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.